Life happens everywhere. Like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and ServPro.com.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real-world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Every day in business starts with a number. Output, productivity, efficiency, all measured in numbers, because data drives decisions. And if fire or water damage strikes, the numbers for your business can slow, or even stop. Unless you know this one, 1-800-SERVPRO, the #1 choice in commercial cleanup and restoration.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome live to 3Wide TV in tonight's broadcast of the Glassdoor Brewing 200 here from the Kansas Speedway, round number 14 of the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series I'm Peter Short, and joining me in the booth is Greg Ranson. Greg, if there is just a few words to sum up this racetrack, it is high, wide, and handsome, because this racetrack, a lot of people said it last week in post-race interviews, pretty much a single groove, but that single groove is up near the wall, and we'll just find out what driver likes to flirt with that outside wall the most.
Yeah, this track is the definition of, like you said, high, wide, and handsome. You're seeing it in practice already. Drivers just riding that wall as close as they can without getting in trouble for wall riding, and we are going to see a lot of action up there on that high groove. But right there to the tri-oval is where they duck down to the bottom. But Peter, this is going to be a very interesting race to see who is up there near the top the longest and who is willing to branch out. Normally, we talk about the high line being where they try to change things up. Today, that's down on the bottom of the track.
Yeah, and sometimes that high line gets a little bit close between drivers, and there you saw the number 9 machine of Brandon Stokes getting a little bit of a nudge from the number 3 machine. And let's keep an eye on this number 9 machine. Brandon Stokes sporting a new paint scheme this week. Got FXR Pro Fish. They just jumped over into kind of the fishing clothing lines, but if you're interested in FXR, really known for their winter clothes, now they have that number 9 machine. And of course, FXR, they've also kind of partnered up with some of the motocross teams and Rockstar energy drinks. So we now have Rockstar on that number 9 machine this week. Great to see that new paint scheme really looking good here tonight. Got a little bit of right front fender damage there. And there's another car with a new paint scheme this week. The number 29 machine of Will Worsler. He took his 1 week off last week in the American Regardless 300, but he's back in action here tonight, sporting that new look. And I gotta say, Greg, that is a great looking paint scheme as well.
Absolutely. Will Worsler wanted to give a big shout out to Jordan Berry for the new paint scheme tonight, and it looks spectacular, Peter. You're seeing it right there. The Sliced Perky Pints Chevy Camaro with a new look tonight, and Peter, I gotta say, that is one of the best looking Cup cars that we have seen here in the ASRS in a long time. That thing is nice.
Yeah, one thing I really do like about this league, Greg, not only the fact they put on great racing, but they showcase some beautiful paint schemes and some great sponsors like Glassdoor Brewing. Keep an eye out for a lot of Glassdoor Brewing cars out here tonight. I believe they went out on the racetrack just before he went live, kind of for a picture, so to speak, just to get the whole crew together. But it is a Glassdoor Brewing 200, and there are incentives that go with that. Really, the winner of this race getting a plaque, getting a beer sampler as well from Glassdoor Brewing, assuming they're of legal drinking age. Pretty cool to have Glassdoor Brewing on this race and a couple of other races this year. Great to see Jay Crable and his dad and that whole group of people working together to get Glassdoor Brewing and the series sponsored. A couple of races were missing sponsorship. Glassdoor Brewing jumped on board, and great to see them here tonight. Got to give a shout out to some of the people already in the chat. Aunt Kathy and Nikki Worsler, how's it going? Hope y'all are doing well this Tuesday afternoon, evening, whatever the case it might be, whether you're watching us on the VOD. Hello, how's it going? Hope it's all going well. Make sure to give us a thumbs up, because I'm looking forward to a fantastic race here tonight, Greg. It's so unique of a racetrack. Like you mentioned earlier, you don't want to be down there on the inside groove unless it's a long enough run. And we talked about this just before going live. We have seen great races here at Kansas Speedway, you and I both, where both grooves start to work, but they only start to work on the long run and maybe a lap or two on fresh tires. But during that middle portion of that run, a lot of high line racing. But if you can get to the last third of the run, Greg, you can really make passes depending on who saved tires and whatnot.
Absolutely, Peter. It's going to be very interesting how this race develops. If we get a long run, like you mentioned, that's when we're going to start seeing the inside groove come in a little bit, and that is when things get racy here at Kansas. I was able to call a Cup race at Kansas about a month ago on another channel, and the racing, we got a couple long green flag runs in, and with that, it became one of the wildest races of the year. The longer the green flag run went, and we got down towards the end of the tires lifespan in that race, we saw some outstanding racing, and this is going to be a lot more interesting, Peter, because don't forget, the ASRS has tire limits in this race. So this will be very interesting to see these drivers manage these tires. It is hot here in Kansas tonight. The track temperature in the triple digits, 102 degrees, Peter. So tire wear is going to be very important here at this race. And with the idea of the high line being the preferred line and the inside groove coming in late, tire wear already going to be of the essence. And that's just amplified more and more with the track temperature being as high as it is.
Yeah, going back to that tire limits, they have 3 sets of tires throughout the race. The tire that they start on, and then they can come down pit road for 2 fresh sets of tires as they so wish. And last week we saw the number 1 machine of Jason Stewart get a little bit off sequence, and he almost walked away with a win at Charlotte Motor Speedway in the American Regardless 300. And oh boy, speaking of the number 1 machine of Jason Stewart, doing a little bit of PR stunt down here on pit road, turned around backwards in his pit stall. I'm sure they're telling him to straighten up here as we are, of course, under the driver's meeting condition. You see all the cars on pit road, and the track has gone silent so they can listen to the in-race officials tell them what they expect to see tonight. And I expect to see lots of green flag racing. We had a great race last week at Charlotte Motor Speedway, Greg. Only a couple of cautions, lots of green flag racing, green flag pit stops. It really had us on the edge of our seats pretty much all the way to the end.
Especially with what we were seeing out of the 1 car of Jason Stewart and how off sequence he was from everybody, and it was able, or seeing how he was able to make the tire situation work, in which he got caught off sequence. And it was not of his doing, and it wound up working out for him with the top 5. But how could you not be impressed with what Greg Evans in the 83 has done this season, picking up another win at Charlotte last week, back in the Duck Brand colors this week, Peter, and he carried these colors to a 2nd at Martinsville a couple of weeks ago. But boy, oh boy, this season so far has been everyone trying to track down that 83 of Greg Evans as we take a look now at the point standings, Peter.
Yeah, Mitch Brown is currently atop the points right there. John Jenkins is in 2nd. Tyler Seville in the 3rd position without a win yet, 34 markers off the lead. Greg Evans, though, like you mentioned, Greg, 5 checkered flags next to his name, picking up his 5th win last week in the American Regardless 300 at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the longest race of the season as well. So I'm sure Greg Evans was glad to get that in his bag. Michael Krobach sitting 5th in points, Brian Yazek 6th. So those 2 teammates right together, 5th and 6th in points. And then Jimmy McKee in the McKee Lawn Care's number 8 machine in 7th. Will Worsler, of course, not making the race last week due to a suspension. He's dropped to 8th in points. Jason Stewart, 9th with that great run. And Troy Haight rounds out your top 10, just under 100 markers back. But, Greg, one thing that the people watching might notice a little bit different about that point standings is actually there was a change in the points leader after last week's American Regardless 300. So for tonight's 200-mile race brought to you by Glassdoor Brewing, it will be the number 51 of Mitch Brown, your reigning Hacksaw PC's Premier Series champion, who will be going in as the points leader. We'll have to find out whether or not he can hold on to that, because the practice times were all very, very close up at the top. Mitch Brown was 3rd in that practice session, and the number 7 machine, who we thought that he was going to be pretty darn fast there towards the end of practice. I thought, man, John Jenkins, he's shown a lot of speeds. Well, he fell well down the running order in practice, running a 30.277, about 3.5 tenths of a second behind the man that you mentioned just a little while ago, Greg Evans, leading the practice charts. But practice, a lot of draft, Greg, and I know draft is very, very important here for your lap time, especially with this current track package, or cup package, I should say. So it'll be interesting to see what these drivers can do here in qualifying.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what these drivers do in qualifying. This is one of the few times where, honestly, you almost can't expect the qualifying time to be quicker than the practice times, because most of those times in practice were set in the draft, which accounts for a few tenths of a second, Peter. So the qualifying times might not be what we saw in practice, but we're definitely going to see, I believe, some of the same guys up front, because the guys that are up front are typically normally the strong qualifiers, as well as the first few cars making their way out. There you see Greg Evans in the 83, but the first couple of cars have taken their first laps. Right now, Ty Hester just gets knocked off, or as I say, by Chris Stouffer in the 46. He's on top of the charts at a 30.120, and that's what we're talking about. Fast time in practice was a 29.8. Several drivers in the 30.0 second bracket on it, and quick time right now, 30.1. So the speed's not what they were in practice so far.
Yeah, pretty much as to be expected. Here we go, on board with Mark Cohn in the number 39 machine, running up there near the wall, currently sitting in 6th out of the drivers who have taken time. 20 cars have come across the stripe to at least complete one of their laps. The 77 of Giese is going to jump to the top. He's surprisingly bettered his practice lap time by 8 1/1000ths of a second, running a 29.999 in practice and now running a 29.991 in qualifying, so 8 1/1000ths of a second. And Chris Stouffer sitting in second, he bettered his practice lap by 2 1/1000ths of a second. So a couple of drivers picking it up here in qualifying, which I'm a bit surprised with. But if this man right here, Greg Evans, can pick up on his practice lap time, he will jump top of the charts. He was fastest in the practice session. We'll see what he can do on the second of his laps. First lap put him down in 16th, coming to the stripe right now on the duct tape number 83 machine. That will move him up, which is good news. Puts him in the 7th position. Yep, there you go. Is that updates?
And Peter, I'm wondering, these drivers who we're seeing picking up time from their practice time, mainly Alex Giese, all the times I looked at Alex Giese in practice, he was doing single car runs. He was not having any drafting help. So I'm wondering if the second half of practice, some drivers began focusing more on mock qualifying runs to try to set up for this qualifying session instead of worrying about the draft. And it seems to have paid off for the likes of Alex Giese and Chris Stouffer, the front row right now. We're seeing Jason Stewart, who again turned so many heads at Charlotte last week with that incredible run after getting caught off sequence, making the best of it for a top 5. We'll see how he's able to back it up. 33 cars have taken time so far, Peter, and Jason Stewart's going to be the 34th to take time. He falls in 31st right now, 30.434, 0.3 of a second off of his practice time. Not what he's looking for in the bounce back here.
Yeah, Brad Lee right here. He's coming out of turn number 2 right now. I love that blue and orange on that paint scheme. They really go well together. Got Hacksaw on the quarter panel. It's got Skalicki's on the front. Skalicki's auto repair. As he comes out of turn number 4, we'll see what he can do on lap number 2 if he can pick it up. He does indeed with a 30.249. That will put him 26th out of the 35 cars so far to take time. And here is the Beef Jerski's Cheesecakes machine. All right, chat, what cheesecake is he making here tonight? We'll have to find out. Maybe he's been able to throw some of that glass door brewing beer into that cheesecake. Wouldn't that be something interesting? Coming out of turn number 4 in that number 71 machine, he's going to try and get on pit road, get a little bit of pit road practice in there. Might have got down to the pit road speed before he got to that stripe, but that's probably not exactly what he was intending on. There's Doug Mullins in the number 18 machine coming down pit road as well. And Greg, we saw some green flag pit stops last week in the American Regardless 300. We saw a couple of drivers struggle with that. You think that that's in the back of the mind of some of these drivers here, and they're trying to get some pit stop practice in?
That's exactly what I'm thinking here, Peter. Most drivers have already set time, but you still have a 10-minute session on the qualifying here. So some drivers might be using these 10 minutes to get up to race speed and then practice coming down pit road. It's not going to affect their time at all, as these drivers have pretty much all turned into qualifying laps already. 35 cars have taken time thus far. Still a couple left to go, including John Jenkins, our second place in points driver, has not yet taken a qualifying time. So kind of interesting there that he is not out there yet. But going back to what we were discussing there, yeah, we're seeing Doug Mullins out here. He is already well over 2 laps of his qualifying run. So he might just be coming out, trying to get back up to race speed and getting a couple extra reps of getting down onto pit road, Peter. So very interesting, but not a bad idea to see some of these guys doing this. And honestly, it might pay off big time for them here in the race.
Absolutely. Every little bit of practice helps. And you see number 18 Mullins, they're getting on pit road nice and neatly this time. So he's just going to bring it to a stop there and jump out of the car. So we have about 3.5 minutes before we go to the green flag conditions. And like you mentioned, John Jenkins in the number 7 machine hasn't taken a time, which is a bit surprising to see the Max Pappas Innovations number 7 not out there in qualifying. But we'll have to see. Maybe he can race his way from the back. And that would be a pretty interesting story with how difficult it is to pass around this 1.5 mile racetrack. That high line has all the grip. And I'm sure these drivers will be fighting to get to that high line all race long. I was kind of surprised. I went back and watched the qualifying lap that Alex Giese laid down, and I was kind of surprised that he didn't run a little bit lower in the racetrack. His qualifying time, he ran it pretty darn close to the wall. So even in qualifying, these drivers levitating up there to the wall and in the 6th position. So Giese's got speed. Hopefully he can put it all together. We've seen that be a problem with Alex Giese over the last year or so here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series. He's a fantastic qualifier and can lay down a really solid lap time. And, when he puts in these good lap times, he kind of sometimes struggles putting it into a good race. So we'll have all eyes on you today, Alex. Hopefully you can put a run in and get a solid result here at the Kansas Speedway. Let's see if we can bring up the current weather conditions just so you can see what the track condition is like. There you go. 68 degrees Fahrenheit ambient temperature, 113 degrees track temperature, which is pretty hot, especially for this asphalt. Wind at 5 miles per hour. And of course, it is partly cloudy. So we might see a few clouds go over the racetrack at certain points here today. And that would be a little bit of relief from that sun for these drivers. And I'll tell you what, Greg, I'm looking forward to this race, 200 miles around here. What do you think these drivers' strategies are going to be like? Do you think these drivers, like John Jenkins, who'll be starting near the back, are just going to try and rush their way to the front? Or do you think they're going to take their time and possibly think that there might be wrecks? Because you and I know that high line, everyone's going to go there.
Well, with this new aero package, Peter, the 1.5 mile tracks are starting to take on more and more characteristics of what we see on a super speedway like Daytona and Talladega. With that, I mean the draft really coming into effect here at these, I won't say smaller tracks, but they are smaller than what we're accustomed to seeing. But with this draft coming into effect on these tracks, it almost pays off to start in the back and kind of just ride it out for the first little bit because of that drafting racing that we see so much at the plate tracks, and we're starting to see more and more now. The drafting with cars so close together can cause accidents if someone doesn't time a move right or some specific or something. So it might almost pay off to start near the back and kind of just hang out for the first, say, 50 laps or so before you really start making your move. 134 laps seems like a lot, but it can go pretty quick here at Kansas. Just 200 miles, 134 laps. If this race goes green for a majority of it, that can go pretty quickly. So you don't want to hang out in the back too long, but I think it might pay off to hang out at least for the first third of the race.
We will wait and see what the winning strategy here is tonight, because the checkered flag has been thrown over the Kansas Speedway, and Aunt Kathy has sinned in the chat. She has let us know that she's cooking tacos right now. That is a cardinal sin, because now I'm hungry, Carlos is hungry, and I'm sure Greg is hungry too. So let us know what type of tacos or what you're going to have on your tacos, I guess. But nonetheless, going back to Kansas Speedway, let's see if we can take it down to tonight's starting lineup for this 200-mile Glass Door Brewing event. And starting on the pole, Alex Giese in that number 77 machine has shown a lot of pace. And alongside him, Chris Stouffer. Stouffer in the 46 machine, he's kind of had issues putting together a race as of late, but definitely starting up at the front in that number 46 machine hopefully gives him the best opportunity to do so here tonight. Row number 2 on the inside, the number 32 of Jordan Harnish, sporting that paint scheme that we saw last week in the patriotic event that we had, the American Regardless 300. Jared Haggerty will start alongside him on row number 2. On row number 3, Woody Mahan in that number 84 machine, and James Lorello in one of the Glass Door Brewing machines. There are 7 in tonight's event. Make sure you keep an eye out for all of them tonight. On row number 4, we have Greg Evans in that number 83 machine. Has yet to get onto the grid, so hopefully he can make it here. He's only got another couple of seconds or so. Mitch Brown will be starting alongside him in 8th. And there's the number 83 machine. Adam Jersky will be rolling off number 9 in the Beef Jersky's Cheesecakes machine. Alongside him, Christopher Bouchard in the number 50 machine. We've seen a lot of pace out of Christopher Bouchard. Lucas Oil Racing TV on the hood. Momentum Sim Racing driver. Very, very fast. And Greg, starting in the 11th position, I think you've got Will Worsler.
Yeah, Will Worsler in the number 11, the new look for him from iRacingPoints.com, number 29. Not sure why I messed that up. Kelsey Rogers to his outside in car number 34 will roll off in the 12th position. Grant Brown behind him in the number 52. With Brandon Stokes, another one of those drivers we talked about with the new paint scheme as we are getting set to go racing here. Brian Yasek in 15th, Tony Schoen in 16th, Alan Young, Mark Cohen 17th and 18th, Jonathan Holstein and Tim Knott rounding out the top 20.
Troy Haight and Jason Stewart make up row number 11. Row number 12 behind them, 72 of Michael Krobach and the 36 of Ty Hester, another one of the Glassdoor Brewing machines. Michael Whiting, Brad Lee on row number 13. Row number 14, Doug Mullins and John Broussard. Row number 15, Cody Spiker and Tyler Seville. And behind them, Jason Eisenhower and Edward Bray. Jimmy McKee and Richard Stallings make up row number 17. Jay Crable and John Jenkins, row number 18. And behind them, you have some of the other drivers who did not take times. John Van Varellis, Jordan Berry, Sam Crow, Todd Kirkwood, and company. Pace truck down pit road, race in the hands of the number 77 machine, Alex Giese, in that bright red and gray machine. Gonna hit the loud pedal, and the green flag is thrown here at Kansas Speedway for the Glassdoor Brewing 200 miles, 134 laps from now. We'll hopefully find out who wins that Glassdoor Brewing prize that the winner will receive here tonight. Very much looking forward to that as the number 77 jumps out to the lead. But here comes the 32 of Jordan Harnish on the inside. Gives a little bit of a bump there. Does the number 46 of Christopher. Oh, big wreck behind, and the number 3 of Lorello's in the outside wall, and this is a big wreck here on lap number 1. Mitch Brown, your points leader, involved, and cars still piling in. Look at the 87 of Crable, just slowly crawling through that. Call him Jake Crawlbill as he crawls through it. Let's see what happens here. It happens all up at the front, and a little bit of contact, and it was on from there. Look at the Beef Jersky's Cheesecakes machine barely sneaking through that one. And boy, oh boy, a lot of cars back there involved. I mean, too many cars to even name. But boy, oh boy, big wreck here.
That is not how these drivers wanted to start. Remember, this series does not have fast repairs, so a lot of cars with some heavy damage. James Arello already towing back to the pits. One car behind him, crab walking onto pit road as we go on board with the 51, the points leader, Mitch Brown, who was right behind Lorello, and it was contact between those two right there, which triggered the whole thing. And man, oh man, this is such a tough start to so many fast cars here, Peter.
Yeah, the number 6 machine of Haggerty might have gotten a late bump or might have got in the outside wall a little bit, not 100% sure, but definite contact between Lorello and Brown, and that is what sent the number 3 machine up into the wall. And look at Tim Knott there in the 41 machine trying to sneak through it, unable to do so. Brandon Stokes in that new Rockstar energy drink machine, unable to get through it in the 9. He's sitting on pit road, I do believe, right now. Here we go on board with the 71 machine. What a fantastic save out of Adam Jersky here. And look at that carnage out the back.
It's just such a tough break for so many drivers. Again, we go on board with another car, this time Doug Mullins in the number 18, who we saw putting in all that practice for pit road entry. And let's see if he's able to squeak by. No, he gets hit from behind. He might have gotten hit from behind by his teammate, Tyler Seville. Not sure if he's the one who caught him, but he came sliding in. We'll have to take another look at that. But that's a shame for Doug Mullins because we saw there's so much time and effort being put into pit road entry. No, it was not the 11 of Tyler Seville. He gets a shot in the back from Jimmy McKee. It was the 53 that got into the back of Doug Mullins in the 18. But Peter, I'm looking at it. That's just about every single one of the Will Worsler cars all involved in this.
Yeah, I was actually just taking count. 22 cars were involved in that incident. 18 cars have stayed out there on the racetrack. 22 cars have come down pit road to get damage repaired. That is just an insane number of cars here on lap number 1 here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series. Huge accident. I gotta say, I think that's the biggest accident we have seen all year long here on 3 Wide TV in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series, collecting 22 of the 40 starters here tonight. But Jordan Harnish up at the front right now, and that pace truck lights have turned off, so they're going to double them up and get back to green flag racing. We only had about 3/4 of a lap under green flag conditions, but Jordan Harnish is hoping he can stay out front. Alex Giese did relinquish the race lead, so he was unable to lead a lap from the front. Chris Stouffer in the 46 machine right behind him. And then Woody Mahan down there right behind Harnish in the number 84 machine. So that pace truck will dive down onto pit road right here. There he goes. Race now in the hands of Jordan Harnish, and I'm sure Harnish is just hoping to get around, get some green flag laps in as the race leader, because the green flag is flying once again, and the number 32 gets a huge jump out front, gets Giese sleeping a little bit, and that's going to pull the number 84 of Mahan to the inside. Battle for second position here. Mahan right down there on the white line. You can go down there on the white line for turns number 1 and 2 just about, and that's about it. I'm sure all these drivers now up at the front, they're all just going to levitate up to the wall, gravitate towards the wall, whatever you want to say. And Woody Mahan still trying that inside groove. He's thinking maybe I can get it to work here, but unable to keep it down there. And that's going to open the door for the number 83 of Greg Evans, last week's race winner in the American Regardless 300, trying to double up here tonight in the Glassdoor Brewing 200, diving off into turn number 1. That duct tape machine, no duct tape on it yet. Hopefully doesn't have any duct tape on it, but the sponsor at the end of the night. As the number 6 of Haggerty, it looks like he might have caught the outside wall again. He's got a little bit of rear end damage on that car now.
Yeah, Haggerty just barely clipped the wall. May or may not have had contact from Alex Giese. Just saw them come really close together right before that happened. But they both did a good job to keep it straight regardless of it. And Haggerty hanging on to the top 5. But Peter, I want to go back up to the lead real quick. Jordan Harnish, we have been talking about him quite a few times over the last couple of races. A lot of speed in that number 32 car. Going back, I would say to probably Talladega a few weeks ago, in which he had such a strong car, unfortunately lost the motor in that number 32 car right around the halfway point in a race that a lot of people were thinking he had a shot at the W in. And ever since then, he has really been showing that 32 has a lot of speed under it. And this is what he needed, a chance to get out, lead some laps early, and try to shake some of that luck that he's had. He got a podium, I believe, 2 weeks ago at Martinsville, I believe it was, but hasn't exactly had the best luck, but leading these laps early, he's led every lap thus far, showing that the 32 has a lot of speed, and this could be exactly what the doctor ordered for that number 32 car, but he better not look in the mirror, because look who's in second. Here's the 83 of Greg Evans, the winner last week at Charlotte. 5 wins on the season already for the 83, riding in second right now, looking like another strong performance early for Greg Evans.
Yeah, that bright green number 83 machine leading a little bit of a 3-car group right there. Chris Stouffer right behind him. A little bit of a different look on Chris Stouffer's number 46 machine. Got a little bit of a blue on the side of that color chrome number 46 machine. Got Coca-Cola on the hood. And definitely a good-looking race car right there. There you go. You can see it. You got Adrenaline Motorsports logo on the side, Coca-Cola on the hood. And I like that blue there, Greg. That kind of reminds me a little bit of, you remember those retro solo cups or whatever they were with the blue and the white? That's kind of what that reminds me of.
A little bit, yeah. I love the chrome effects on that 46 car. That is a beautiful-looking race car. And with it sitting in the top 5, it looks even better. But I got to say, that right there is one of the most beautiful cars we've seen all season. We have seen several amazing new paint schemes here tonight, Peter.
Yeah, a couple of drivers using those new paint schemes. Unfortunately for one of those drivers, Brandon Stokes, and the number 9 machine has taken it behind the wall and called it a night. We only have 33 cars on the lead lap. Kelsey Rogers in the number 34 is the last car on the lead lap. He's missing a hood. We have Bouchard, Mullins, Eisenhower multiple laps down, Stokes, Mitch Brown, Lorello, and Tyler Seville are on pit road. In fact, Lorello, Stokes, and Eisenhower are the 3 drivers who have taken it behind the wall and called it a night here due to that first lap accident. There is Kelsey Rogers. You can see him struggling. Mitch Brown in the number 51 machine comes into tonight as your points leader. He is hobbling that number 51 machine back out onto the racetrack. There he is. Looks like they finally got the hood on that race car, but it's still missing rear end, as unfortunately not the night that the number 51 was hoping for. Got Glassdoor Brewing on the hood, but there's another one of the Glassdoor Brewing machines. The number 53 machine still doing quite well. Of course, the number 53 is driven by John Broussard, running down the back stretch. He's currently in 31st, but I don't think the damage on that race car is all too bad. Hopefully, if he does have any damage, he can get that repaired as this race goes on. Right in front of him, the number 29 of Will Worsler, who's got a whole bunch of damage on that race car. So it's going to be interesting to see if some of these drivers can get some of that damage fixed as this race goes on, and whether or not we'll see them charge up to the front. But speaking of charging up at the front, there's the number 83 machine. It didn't take all too long for him to be sniffing the race lead. Greg Evans, Harnish in the outside wall. Looks like we have a caution here on the racetrack as well. Not quite sure. The 73 of Jonathan Holstein has gone around on the backstretch. Let's see what happened here, Greg.
Gonna look at the replay. He got the wall right there in contact with another car, and boy, oh boy, they went all the way down. Didn't catch the number on who that was.
It's the 02.
Got together. The 02 Sam Rowe in the 02.
Catch this from a slightly different angle. This was fairly well back in the pack, around the 20th position or so. And unfortunately for Holstein, he's going to go for a long slide down there. Hopefully not too much damage on that number 73 machine. Looks pretty clean on all of the fenders, so that is good news. I think he did catch the wall, though, right there. Yes, he did. And that's what checked him up. And the 02 making a little bit of contact with him, but I think Holstein will be able to bounce back from that. No harm. So, interesting start to the race here. Boy, a lot of cars that first incident. Here we are in the second caution of the night. We got drivers coming down pit road, led by the number 55 of Brian Yazik. Yazik is one of those gamblers. He likes to go off strategy in that HPPsimulations.com Ford. And here he is, coming down. Woody Mahan as well, his teammate. So a couple of mixed strategies here in the field. Most of your leaders stay out. Looks like the top 18 or so are staying out there on the racetrack. So it'll be interesting to see how that all kind of shuffles out right now. Looks like Todd Kirkwood in 19th is the last car to stay out there on the racetrack. So already some interesting strategy here, Greg. Remember that these drivers do have 3 sets of tires on these race cars here tonight. They have the set they start on, and then they have 2 fresh sets sitting on pit road. Not quite sure if any of those drivers elected to use a fresh set of tires this time around. Some of the drivers might just be thinking about adding in a little bit of fuel, Greg, because, how the strategy might shake out as this race goes on. You never really know.
Yeah, drivers at this point, I was keeping an eye on pit road. Most of them did elect to go fuel only. But, Peter, before that caution came out, I was keeping my eyes on 2 cars that were really starting to come through the field. And they have something else in common besides the fact that they both came down pit road and were the first 2 cars off pit road there. They both have HPP simulations on the hood. Brian Yazik, at the time of the caution, had already gained 10 positions from the 15th starting position. The 72 of Michael Krobach started in the 21st position. He was up to 9th. So the HPP cars were big gainers there at the start. I'm sorry, Krobach, actually 23rd starting position, was up to 9th. So the HPP simulation cars, while they might not have gotten the qualifying efforts they wanted, showing that they may have some speed in those cars, as it wasn't just because of that big accident, Peter. I was watching them. They were making moves and passing cars with relative ease right there. So a lot of speed in the HPP simulation Fords here tonight. Yazik and Krobach. We will see, of course, how this goes now with the varying strategy, with them having a little more fuel in their fuel tank than the rest of the field. And Brian Yazik, the first car off pit road, will roll off in the 20th position when it's all said and done here. So 14 cars stayed out on this one, but I do not believe any of the cars that came down pit road took any tires, so this is going to be interesting to see how this unfolds.
It will be interesting. If we get a long green flag run, we might be looking back at this point as a possible turning point in tonight's Glassdoor Brewing 200 because of those drivers that have a little bit extra fuel in the tank. But we do get the 1 to green this time by, so we'll be going green in just 1 lap from now. That's what that means, folks. When the pace truck lights have gone off, Tony's showing in the number 33 machine. He's coming off pit road with a lengthy pit stop to get as much damage repaired as possible. Looks like Cody Spiker, Kelsey Rogers, Jonathan Holstein, Christopher Bouchard also having lengthy stops on pit road to get as much damage repaired as possible. And that number 33 machine looks like he'll probably get back up to the field for this restart here in about a half a lap's time. Biggest mover in the race so far is one of the Glassdoor Brewing machines. It is the number 87 of Jay Crable. Right down there inside row number 5 for this restart, right behind your pole sitter, the number 77 of Alex Giese, that bright blue number 87 machine, trying to get his way to the front. Wouldn't that be cool if the Glassdoor Brewing machine could get to victory lane in the Glassdoor Brewing 200, but it's a long way between now and then, 116 laps to go. As we cross the stripe this time by, pace truck will head down onto pit road, race back in the hands of the number 32 of Jordan Harnish. Was being battled for that race lead with the number 83 of Greg Evans, but the 32 gets a good jump here once again, Greg, and he's going to jump out in front of Greg Evans, and Evans is going to slot into second here, Stouffer into third, so pretty much lockstep up the front.
And that goes back to something we've noticed over the last few weeks, Peter, that on restarts, that inside lane just has such an advantage because they control the restart, so they're able to gun the gas first, and the outside lane has to wait for them to hit the gas before they can go, and that opens the door up for that inside lane to make a move. But Greg Evans did not allow that to happen as he had a great run through turns 1 and 2, and here he is again taking a shot at the lead, and this might be the best shot he's had all day, and he's going to make it work. Evans had the nose in front of Harnish. He will clear him as Stouffer catches the wall behind him, but here comes Harnish on the crossover. See if he's able to get it going. Evans, the second at the line. Harnish able to fight back on the inside. Harnish with the nose in front, but Evans has the preferred lane. Harnish can't clear him, and Evans will clear through 3 and 4. And here comes Chris Stouffer. The hit to the wall didn't slow him down at all. New race leader, it's the 83, Greg Evans.
Yeah, and you can see just how important it is to have that high line. The 32 of Harnish went from battling for the race lead as the number 6 of Haggerty bounces off the outside wall once again. That's not the first time we've seen that here tonight. He's going to drop in back behind Harnish here, but he's being battled for that spot by the number 28 of Troy Haight. P&N water filters on the hood of that number 28 machine. He's going to slide up in front of Haggerty and take the 4th position. But look at the number 24 machine. We ride on board with him right here. Alan Young, they get really tight through the tri-oval. Almost contact. Young's going to have to back out of it. And the number 6 of Haggerty going to hold on to the 5th position for now. But that was almost an accident once again there through the tri-oval. Very, very tight racing. And looking a little bit further back, here's Alex Giese in the number 77 machine. He's dropping back. He's got the number 52 to his outside. That's Grant Brown in that car. One of the only Glassdoor Brewing cars out there on the racetrack with no damage. Looks like Ty Hester in front of him is the highest ranked Glassdoor Brewing machine. There are 7 in tonight's field. I believe there are still 7. If you watch closely throughout the stream, you'll see him. There is the number 36 of Ty Hester right behind the 22 of Michael Whiting, who is running in 7th. But look at Troy Haight here in the number 28 machine. He has run down Jordan Harnish, and he's trying to get past him here on the inside groove. We've seen how difficult that is and how much advantage that outside groove has. And unfortunately, Haight unable to make that pass. But look at this. Troy Haight down the front stretch. Look at how much ground he lost on Jordan Harnish. He was right with him, and it grew to about 3 or 4 car lengths there down the front stretch. So definitely that high line showing its prominence out of turn number 4. I think really, here's the number 72, Krobach down there on the inside groove. We mentioned the HPP simulation machines earlier, Greg, but right now, Jacek and Krobach both down there on the inside line.
They're slowly making their way through the field, Peter. Yazik, of course, restarted in the 20th position, gaining a couple of spots so far, up in the 18th position. Krobach kind of stuck there in the 22nd position after restarting in 21st. So they kind of stalled out there a little bit as they have extra fuel, but they are still on the same tire strategy right now. So you're taking a look here through the field. There we see Krobach and Woody Mahan and others there cycling around 22nd, 23rd or so. But the guys who've pitted so far not really making a whole lot of gains here so far on this green flag run as we're a few laps into it now. So maybe pitting, honestly, I don't think we're going to see how that really works out for them until later in the run like we discussed, because if this goes a long green flag run, I think that's where we're going to start seeing that extra fuel come into play. But if we get a caution here somewhere in the next 10, 15 laps or so, that strategy might just go right out the window.
Hopefully we don't see any cautions here. There's the number 7 machine going all the way down there to the apron. That is John Jenkins, Max Pappas Innovations machine. And haven't seen him up at the front just yet, but I'll tell you what, John Jenkins is slowly but surely making his way through the field. Remember, that number 7 machine pretty much started shotgun here tonight. It's almost contact with the 0-2 of Sam Crow right in front of him. But Jenkins is going to slot in line, I believe, in the 15th position. So he did pick up a spot this last lap from someone, not 100% sure, but Jenkins now up into 15th. One of the biggest movers in this race so far is that number 7 machine, plus 21 positions. In fact, Sam Crow in front of him is now the biggest mover, plus 25 in that 0-2 machine. What can Sam Crow do here tonight? There's Jimmy McKee and the McKee Lawn Care machine right in front of the number 53 of John Broussard, one of the Glassdoor Brewing machines. Hard to miss him here tonight, Greg, because there are so many of them.
Yeah, so many cars with that paint scheme going right now. Jimmy McKee back to his usual McKee Lawn Care paint scheme, trying to get a run on the 41 of Tim Knott. Remember, Knott does have damage on that 41 car from that incident, taking a peek up further in the field, checking back in with Troy Haight, who has gotten around Jared Haggerty for the 5th spot. But Peter, how about Jared Haggerty for a minute and what he has done so far tonight? Qualified 4th, staying in the top 5 all day despite catching the wall a couple of times already. And here we see him getting a little bit of a run on Troy Haight in the 28th. The Darlington truck winner last year is having a very solid run here so far.
Yeah, absolutely. The number 6 machine of Haggerty still up there in the top 5. You're not missing anything up at the front, folks. The number 83 machine of Greg Evans has scooted away right now up to about 0.7 of a second race lead. He's trying to get his 6th win of the 2020 Hacksaw PC's Premier Series. And I'll tell you what, looking very fast here again tonight. There was your pole sitter, the number 77 of Alex Giese. Might have jinxed him early in the race. Kind of said he's had a tough time putting a race together. He's back in 11th. We'll have to see if he can start working his way forward as this race goes on. Looks like we finally got a little bit of a green flag feel to this race, which is good news. Of course, might be a commentator's curse on that one as well. There is McKee trying to get around Sam Crow in the 0-2 machine. Notice the number 55 of Brian Yazik there in that shot. The number 55 right now in 21st position. So doesn't really look like he's been able to make up as many positions as he was hoping in that race car right there behind his teammate Woody Mahan. So the 84 and the 55 working together around this racetrack. Oh, there's the number 1 machine throwing some sparks out the right side, making some heavy contact with the outside wall, one of the Glassdoor Brewing machines. I think we've just about got all 7 of them in this broadcast at some point here tonight, Greg.
I think. Give it time. We still have 100 laps.
So some good battles here. And I'm really watching this train from about 7th through the 10th position. And then you have another train from about the 13th position all the way back to 25th or so, where Mark Cohn is in the Sim Lab Ford Mustang. So great battle from 13th on back, as Mark Cohn is trying to get to the outside of the number 29 machine. Will Worser will do so. There is Cohn, the MLC Racing Channel presenter, and He's out there on the racetrack here tonight, turning in some laps with some of his teammates right in front of him. Michael Krobach and Brian Yazek a couple cars ahead. And we've said this a couple times here, Greg, that Brian Yazek, Michael Krobach, they just wait. They wait for their time to pounce, and that might be what they're doing here. They might be saving a little bit of tire. Not 100% sure, but they have lost a few spots over the last few laps in those cars at the back of this train now.
It would make sense, Peter, because remember, they pitted on that last caution, did not change tires, but added fuel. So that tells me they're intending to go longer on these tires than the rest of the field. So maybe conserving tires a little bit for the first stages of this green flag run might have been what their call was. So they have a little bit of life left for those extra laps that would be coming up if this pans out for them. So it might not be so much that they're just stalled out. They might not be pushing it so much to save those tires because they know they're going to have to squeeze that much more life out of them. About 15, 16 laps or so. I believe it was lap 16 when they pitted, so they're going to have to squeeze a few extra laps out if this thing goes green the rest of the way. So they will probably just be hanging out in the back, saving those tires and waiting to push it until maybe these guys come down pit road so they can get some extra life out of them.
Interesting. We'll have to wait and see if that pans out for them, but currently we do have, I do believe, 33 cars on the lead lap. Christopher Bouchard in the number 50 is the first car scored one lap down, so if a caution were to come out, the number 50 would be the lucky duck. There he is. Got a lot of damage from that first lap accident. You can see he's missing pretty much all the front end. He's only got the hood left on it. If he lost the hood, it'd be a modified racing around here. You see he's a little bit off the pace, unfortunately. I'm sure that's not what Momentum Sim Racing driver was hoping for here tonight with Lucas Oil Racing TV on the hood. There we have the number 84 machine trying to use that inside groove. And oh, was that the number 1 machine? It was the number 1 machine. Jason Stewart getting into the outside wall there coming out of turn number 4. We just saw it. We'll see it again here on the 3-wide TV replay, but Jason Stewart making contact with the outside wall, and we mentioned it, Greg. You got to flirt with that outside wall, but you just got to flirt with it. You can't. Ooh, he got a little bit of help there, actually, from the number 84 of Mahan. I take that back. Sometimes you need a little bit of help to flirt with the wall. Well, unfortunately for Jason Stewart, he probably got the bad end of that stick, as that number 1 machine has lost a couple of positions here now, right behind Will Warser. Nicky Warser says that contact skill scared Will to death. I'm sure Will was in the prime spot to see that all happen right behind it. He might need a few new pairs of underwear after this night is all said and done in that number 29 machine, still running around in the 24th position. But let's look at this battle. Up towards the front, the number 24 of Alan Young inside the top 5, trying to get that position from the number 6 of Haggerty. Look at Alan Young trying to cut down underneath the corner. Look at the number 22 of Michael Whiting. He's slowly closed in on this battle for the 3rd position because it's from Harnish, Haggerty, Alan Young, and Michael Whiting. Only about 0.5 of a second between them.
And Whiting is up 19 spots from the 25th starting spot, Peter. In 6th, knocking on the door of the top 5. Great run so far for Michael Whiting. Haven't had a chance to talk about him a whole lot here this season on 3-wide TV in the ASRS Hacksaw PC's Premier Series. It's been a great job for him so far here today, hanging out in the 6th position, well inside the top 10, as a little bit of a battle breaks out now for the 3rd spot as Harness shuts the door on Haggerty, who still is just having a great run in that number 6. Alan Young, though, right behind him, noticing, though, that Troy Haight has fallen not just out of this battle, he has fallen into the 8th position as Ty Hester was also able to get around him. There we see Troy Haight, who had such a good run at Dover a couple weeks ago, finishing in 2nd position, was looking to build on that, just hasn't had it so far. Since then, had a good run to start it off here today, but something may have gone sour on the 28 car, as now the battle breaking up in front of them once again as Haggerty felt a little bit of pressure from Alan Young, instead was able to catapult it to get around Jordan Harnish in the 32. Jared Haggerty up into 3rd in that number 6 car, and he's trying to bring Alan Young with him.
Yeah, Alan Young will take that position, and here comes Michael Whiting now into the top 5. Very impressive run by the Brookside Equipment Sales number 22 machine, now crossing the start-finish line, and into the top 5 he goes. So good run for that bright yellow number 22, and that's really what Michael Whiting needs here this season. Just hasn't quite had the results that he's been looking for, but I'll tell you what, he's been fast at quite a few races this year, Greg. I mean, that number 22 has impressed me multiple races, and he's doing so here again tonight.
Yeah, an outstanding run for the 22 of Michael Whiting, now in the top 5, hanging on to the draft of Alan Young and Jared Haggerty. With them kind of slicing and dicing up front, you'll be able to see the 22 right up on them here real quickly. As you can see it closing in as they are working their way down the backstretch right now. Here you see nose to tail. This is one of the tightest battles on the track right now. Haggerty and Young, 3rd and 4th on the racetrack.
Yeah, that number 24 machine just hounding the back bumper of the number 6 of Haggerty. You can see Allen wants that spot. He's just looking to try and get to that high groove. We've seen that high groove be the preferred line, but now Young's going to run the middle of the racetrack, and that's going to open the door for the 22 of Whiting. Whiting unable to fill that void just yet, and Young's going to hold on to that position. I'll tell you what, Greg, we saw Greg Evans make the pass on Jordan Harnish earlier by kind of backing up his corner, getting a run out of turn number 4, and that's exactly what Alan Young just did. But he's going to try and use the high line to his advantage here. Not able to do so. The 6 cuts him off once again, going off into turn number 1. Very, very tight between those two cars, and now the 24 just going to try and throw it around the outside in the middle of the corner, unable to find any grip that close to the wall. And he's going to try again this time. So sometimes you just got to reset, get your head back on you, figure out where the grip is on the racetrack, and try again next lap. And that's what Alan Young, this number 24 machine, is doing right now. We ride on board with him here. Got the number 6 riding out front. You saw Haggerty jump below that white line there through the trial. We'll try to get as much time on Alan Young as possible. Right now out on the racetrack, last time my fastest car was the 52 of Grant Brown in the 9th position. He was about 2/100ths of a second faster than your race leader, Greg Evans. You see right there that number 52 machine down in the 9th position with a 31.843. We'll see what it's like this time by. But really, Greg Evans up at the front. He's the fastest car in the top 5, pulling away from Chris Stouffer last time by about 0.2 of a second. You see it right there. Grant Brown was able to get around Troy Hates to move him up into the 8th position. And what about that number 28 machine of Troy Haight inside the top 10? P&N water filters on the hood of that black and green machine. And Troy Haight's put together some good runs recently here, Greg. Gotta say, really starting to turn around that season on that race car, and I'm sure he is glad to see some good fortuitous luck start to go his way.
Absolutely. That started with that second place at Dover. There's problems in front of him. Harnish getting together with the 52 of Brown after catching the wall. Caution is out, and Ty Hester just barely squeaked through.
Wow, I'm really surprised there. Those two drivers who had such a great race going. Let's see what happened here. Ty Hester, oh, he hit the wall. Ty Hester got a little bit of damage as well, and the 52 Grant Brown going for a 360 here on the back stretch, excuse me. Hopefully not too much damage. Wow, the number 32 kind of just weaving back and forth there. Let's go on board with the 32 of Harnish here. You see that outside wall comes up a little bit fast. You see him try to save it. The car on the inside was Ty Hester, and then a little bit of pinball action on the backstretch leads to the number 32 Patriot Media and Marketing Services car going for a spin, as well as the Glassdoor Brewing number 52 of Grant Brown. Here we go on board with Grant Brown. Let's see, this all happened so fast, Greg.
Just catching the wall was the 32 of Harnish bouncing off Hester, and before Grant Brown could even say, hey, what's that? He's going around after contact with him. So, and we were just talking about him being the fastest car on the racetrack a couple laps before that. That's a tough break for him. But Peter, pit road is a busy place right now.
Everyone coming down pit road. This will be the first tire change for all of your leaders. They'll go on to their second set of 3 that they have here tonight. Look at that. Everyone getting into their pit box nice and neatly. It's important that you get into your pit box nice and neatly because you can win or lose on pit road. Look at that chaos back there towards the back of the pack. Looks like Will Worcester is going to win the race off pit road. Not quite sure what his strategy is.
Pit stop, Peter.
Oh, he misses pit. Okay, so we got a couple of drivers who missed their pit stall, but of the cars who did get to their pit box, it does look like the number 83 is going to be the first one off pit road with Christopher right behind him. So first and second on pit road come out first and second of the drivers who did not miss their pit box. And there you see the number 86 machine. This is Todd Kirkwood in the American Regardless machine. He stayed out on the racetrack. We'll see whether or not he comes down onto pit road this time. I kind of expect him to, Greg. I think it's going to be a little bit difficult if you stay out, but looks like he's going to do that right here. Maybe he's trying the Jason Stewart strategy that we saw last week at Charlotte Motor Speedway in the American Regardless 300.
It might be what he's doing, Peter. He remembers that it worked out for Jason Stewart. If he can catch a quick yellow here, or possibly maybe even a long run, not sure how it would work out for him there, but we'll see what happens. 50 laps is a long way, but Peter, this goes back to what we talked about a little bit earlier with those cars that pitted on that previous yellow. This is what I was worried about. If they had a caution right around here before the green flag pit stop cycle began, that was going to throw their strategy out the window, and there it is. Those cars that pitted, Brian Yazik and others, they are mired back deep in the field now. So that strategy of trying to stretch the fuel a little bit did not work out for them, as they got shuffled in the back here with all this pit stop cycle that happened. So that strategy did not go out the window, and now those cars that pitted on the previous caution have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of those drivers, Brian Yazik in the number 55 machine, I saw there when he was on pit road, he actually had a little bit of rear end damage. I'm not quite sure where that damage came from. He was down around the 20th position or so, getting reports that there might have been a little bit of contact between the 02 and Jay Crable. In fact, Jay Crable in the number 87 machine has called it a night and has taken the Glassdoor Brewing machine to the garage. So that happened about 10 laps or so before the yellow flag came out. So we stayed green. All those cars were able to stay going straight. But it definitely looks like both the 55 of Yazik and the 72 machine of Michael Krobach both got some damage in that contact between a couple of cars. So unfortunately for them, not only did their strategy not work out, now they have damage on those race cars, and they probably came down and got as much repaired as possible. But for Yazik, he'll be restarting back here in the 25th position, and it looks like his teammate Krobach, a spot or two behind him, down around 29th. But pace truck lights are off.
Peter, speaking of strategy that didn't work, was watching the 86 of Todd Kirkwood. He stayed out to try to lead a lap, but by the time he came down on pit road to change, they were getting the 1 to green, so he had to drive right through pit road and get back out to not miss the start. So not only does he not get tires, he's at the tail end of the field.
Yeah, and he probably has a black flag for pitting under closed pits. So we'll have to see how that works out for Todd Kirkwood. And in fact, he is peeling off the racetrack right now as we go back to green flag racing. The number 83 of Greg Evans will take the race lead off into turn number 1, right back where he was. He had over a second lead in that number 83 machine when that caution came out. But look at the number 24 of Alan Young here getting underneath Christopher. You can run that inside groove for about a lap or so until the tires heat up. And he's trying to take that second spot from Stouffer, but look at Haggerty in the number 6 machine holding tough around the outside as well.
Haggerty is having such a great run in that number 6 car today. Oh boy, Chris Stouffer with a huge run off of turn number 4. Where did that come from? From the 46 of Stouffer. He's going to clear Evans going into turn 1 here and make it look easy. New leader Chris Stouffer in the 46. Where did that run come from?
Like he was shot out of a cannon, Greg. I mean, Evans ran the inside line thinking it might have been fast for a lap or so, but Chris Stouffer stayed true to that high line and made that pass stick. Now look at the number 6 machine, Jared Haggerty, all over the back bumper of the number 83 of Evans. Some great racing here for the race lead just a couple laps after going back to green. And that bright green number 83 is not enjoying this green flag run, as he's already lost the lead and in danger of losing the second spot to the number 6 of Haggerty here as they go through turn number 3 and 4. Coming back to the front stretch this time by Evans staying on the high side. I'm sure he's kind of learned his lesson that probably not the best idea to go use that inside line. But Stouffer's checked out here, Greg. I mean, he's now up to about a half-second race lead over the 83 of Evans.
Well, those new tires are doing wonders for the 46 of Stouffer. He has found something in that 46 as the battle continues for second. Haggerty putting the pressure on the 83 of Evans with Alan Young creeping up into the picture as well. Ty Hester, of course, got a little bit of damage on that last caution. Doesn't seem to be affecting him much in the 36, currently in the 5th position as they roll into turn number 1. Single file right up on the high side. And Peter, it almost kind of reminds you a little bit of Darlington, watching these drivers ride the high line the entire way around the track up near the wall. And we've seen so many drivers hit the wall. Would that be a Kansas strike, or do we come up with a different theme for this one? Maybe like a Kansas twister or something?
I don't know. I think we're going to have to work on that one as this race goes on. But I'll tell you what, I'm really impressed by the bright yellow number 22 machine of Michael Whiting. He only has one top 10 all season long in that race car. He has 11 starts and only one top 10, which is, I'm sure he's, a bit frustrated with that because he has shown pace in the Brookside Equipment sales machine. But right now, that bright yellow machine, you can't miss it right there on the center of your screen, right behind Ty Hester, who is the highest running Glassdoor Brewing race car at this present moment in time. There is the number 36. And Whiting just running up there on the outside line. So we'll have to see whether one of these drivers decides to flinch and use that inside groove. Looks like Troy Haight in the number 28. He's going to use the inside groove. And look at right in front of him, Greg. That's the number 7 of John Jenkins. Didn't take a qualifying lap time. He's been patient. And now that number 7 machine is going to get up into the 8th position right behind John Broussard and the number 53, who has a little bit of damage from that first lap accident. And John Jenkins here starting to make some noise as we get ever closer to the halfway distance.
Points leader for a majority of the season, Peter. Just lost the points lead last week to Mitch Brown, and he is showing why he led the points for a majority of it. Started 36th position on the provisional, and here he is up in the top 10. They come up on the slower car right now of Doug Mullins, as you see Greg Evans pulling away a little bit from Jared Haggerty. But like you mentioned, John Jenkins has been very quiet, just moving up through the field. So here we go. And John Jenkins putting pressure on now John Broussard, but feeling pressure from Troy Haight in the 28, and Haight's able to get around him. So just like that, Jenkins falls down into 9th as Troy Haight begins his charge back to the front.
Yeah, trying to get underneath the number 53 of Broussard right here. One of the other Glassdoor Brewing machines. Got Patriot Media and Marketing Services on the backside of that number 53, but the number 28 P&N Water Filters machine will take that position here. Watch him slide up the racetrack, do a little bit of a slide job, and Broussard has to make a little bit of contact with the outside wall. That's going to allow John Jenkins to get underneath the number 53. It looks like the 52 of Grant Brown's going to also follow through to that spot, so Broussard's going to fall back from 7th to 10th there, just like that. And that's how you have to how you have to be to make a pass here at Kansas. You have to be a little bit cutthroat. The slide job is about the only way to get around someone, and that's what Troy Haight did right there. I'm sure Broussard won't be too happy with that, but that's just what you got to do to make a pass here. It's very, very difficult to pass with how strong that outside groove is.
Yeah, the outside groove has been where they ride, but most of the passes that we've seen have been, like you mentioned, that dive down to the bottom and trying to pull off the slide job to get back up to the top and get back into that preferred groove. That's been most of the passes that we see so far here today, Peter. So the outside lane definitely is where you want to ride, but if you want to make a pass, we are seeing that inside lane work if you can time it right. We saw it in that pass for the lead a few laps to go on that restart. But speaking of the lead, it's beginning to heat up as you're on board with second place Greg Evans right now. That silver and blue 46 car is right out the windshield. Here comes duct tape.
And that bright green number 83 machine gonna duck it down to the inside, pun intended there, and he will clear Chris Stouffer and get himself up into the front where we have seen him for most of this race. You see him just slide up to get in front of the number 46. Now we'll see if Stouffer ducks out here on the backstretch. Unable to do so, so the number 83 duck machine will put himself atop the leaderboard, and I think he's going to run away a little bit here. I was watching the average lap times over the last 5 laps. Greg Evans has been the fastest race car, but Stouffer now has a little bit of draft that he can use to keep with the number 83 machine, at least unless the aero push has anything else to say about it. But I'll tell you what, Greg Evans has been very, very fast here tonight, trying to get win number 6 on the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series here tonight.
And Peter, you mentioned a little bit there about aero push. Some of our viewers might not be familiar with the term. Boy, Haggerty just had a big slide. More on that in a second. Jared Haggerty was all over the place coming off turn number 4. Alan Young has to check up in front of him as Haggerty tries to get back up in the preferred lane. Didn't realize Alan Young was already there, but Jared Haggerty made a big save there, shuts the door on Alan Young, who tries to cross over, bringing Ty Hester up into the mix with him. And this battle for third shakes up right now as Alan Young going to work on Haggerty. And going back to what we talked about, now Haggerty being out front has the advantage because Alan Young might be talking about that aero push right now. And Peter, our first-time viewers that we might have might not be aware of aero push. Explain to them a little bit what that means at a track here like Kansas.
Well, when you're going 190 miles an hour or so, the aerodynamics of your race car are very, very important. And aero push is a car behavior that is due to the fact that when you're right behind a car like this, you're drafting it behind him, you lose downforce. On the super speedways like Daytona and Talladega, you want as little downforce as possible, and that's why you see all the cars drafting one another. But on a racetrack like this, you want that extra downforce, the same downforce which makes you faster down the straightaways. It makes you slower in the corners on certain racetracks because of you want the reverse. You want all that downforce to have all that extra grip to get through the corner nice and fast. And so when you get really close to a car in front of you, like we see these cars right here, sometimes your car has a tendency to push up into the wall due to that lack of downforce, that lack of grip that you get. And I'm sure a lot of these drivers are experiencing that here. It's kind of a catch-22. You want to be close to behind a car to be fast down the straightaway to get the benefit of the draft, but you don't want to be close up behind a car in the middle of the corner so you can get all the downforce that the car has to offer. And that's why on some racetracks, not Kansas, unfortunately, but on certain racetracks, you'll actually see drivers fan out in the middle of the corner so they get some extra downforce. My voice went up an octave there because the number 6 machine of Jared Haggerty smacked the outside wall once again. And Alan Young and Ty Hester getting really close with one another. Alan Young was right up behind the number 6 of Haggerty, and when Haggerty hit the wall, the 24 had to check up. That is going to bring Michael Whiting back into the fray for this battle for the 3rd position.
Whiting was kind of hanging out there. I was watching that battle as well, Peter, and saw the whole thing. Haggerty just barely catching the wall. Had to check up, did the 24 of Alan Young, which opened the door for Hester to make a move. Young was able to fend him off, and because Hester was out of the preferred lane, that's what allowed Whiting to get back up into the mix, and that has also brought Troy Haight back in. But now we see Alan Young has the preferred line on the outside, and Haggerty's in trouble here as Young is able to get such a run off the outside, and he's able to slingshot right around the 6 of Haggerty. And Ty Hester is now going to try the slide job in turn number 3. If he can clear, not quite yet. Haggerty's able to carry that momentum on the high side. This time they come close together there off of turn number 4 as Whiting fends off the challenge from Haight behind him. Hester falls back in line, and there you see right there what the clean air can do, because look at how far already Alan Young has been able to pull away from Jared Haggerty in just 1 lap after getting around the 6 car. The clean air now on the 24 is paying huge dividends.
Yeah, clean air is the opposite of the aero push that we were talking about. Clean air is when you've got all that extra downforce, all that extra grip, because you're not following a car closely. And definitely can see that that number 24 is using that to his advantage. But watch the number 6 just close in a little bit on the straightaways due to that draft. And Alan Young, I'm sure that number 24 machine now has his eyes set on the number 46, Christopher, in front of him. There's about 1.8 seconds between Stouffer and Alan Young as things stands right now. And I wouldn't be all surprised if Ty Hester can get up to Haggerty here. Oh, 53 in the outside retaining wall, just a little bit there. Unfortunately, John Broussard has lost a couple of spots in that race car. He was solidly up inside the top 10 not too long ago. Now he's fallen back into 12th. Jimmy McKee in the number 8 machine. He's making a run now into the top 10 in the McKee Lawn Care Chevrolet. And Mark Cohn in the number 39 Simlad Ford Mustang. He's put together a solid run here tonight as well in the 11th position. We got some people in the chat. Tyler Seville saying my night ended too early. And Tyler, I think you can pretty much say the same for about 22 cars here tonight. 22 cars being involved in that first accident. Corey Silva saying, I hate this track more than the DMV. And I'll tell you what, a lot of people hate the DMV, so you must really despise this racetrack. And Doug Mullen saying, I hear that as well. Kansas, I gotta say, personally, this racetrack can be very, very frustrating to race on, and I think Michael Whiting's about to find that out in that number 22 machine. He's got to run down there on the inside, just can't do anything with it as that outside line holds strong, and here comes Troy Haight with a run to his outside now, and I think Haight's going to take that spot here. I personally really like running this racetrack. It's just very frustrating to run this racetrack. It frustrates all these drivers because it's so difficult to pass. And if you do try making a pass on someone, like the number 22 just did right there, you can end up losing 1, 2, 4, 5, 10 spots. I mean, you know, just for trying to be a bit aggressive and trying to make a move, you pay the penalty here more often than not. But for Troy Haight, that's to his benefit because he's going to move up into the 6th position. But I really like running up there near the wall. I find it fun. It's unique about this racetrack that you're always up there. I just know there are definitely drivers out there, kind of like myself, who wishes that inside line was maybe just a little bit better to produce a little bit more side-by-side action.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way, Peter, as the race kind of goes on this long green flag run. We're closing in on one of the longest green flag runs of the day as you're watching the 55 of Yazik. Remember, Yazik was the driver who led the charge to those pit stops back a couple of cautions ago where they took fuel only and they were kind of hanging back, saving their tires, hoping that the race would stay green, and unfortunately did not. So that entire strategy got washed out the window, and they've been trying to work their way back up through the field, and they've kind of been stuck right around 18th to 22nd bracket in that field here, Peter. So things not going the HPPSim.com way right now because it has been a difficult day trying to get back up through the field right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But this race has gone great for the number 24 of Alan Young, currently sitting in the 3rd position in that number 24 machine. And I gotta say, you know, he's put together some pretty decent runs as of late. He's still hovering around 20th place in points, and you want to be above that 20th position so you're guaranteed a spot in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series races, especially when we go to the next event, because I'll tell you what, folks, next week we have an off week. That's right, we won't be here at the same time, same place on 3Wide TV next week. It will be the week after when we go to the Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown, race number 5 at Michigan International Speedway. So make sure to tune in for that. But we got a taker on pit road. Looks like it's one of the cars with a lot of damage. Couldn't quite see who that was. Might have been the 51 of Mitch Brown. There he is coming down right now. And I was just thinking, Greg, the pit window is now open. The driver's pitted with about 80 laps to go. That's about 15 laps short on fuel. If you're one of those drivers like myself who likes to split things in half, we could see drivers on pit road here in about 10 laps, Greg.
Yeah, with the pit window open and things really settling down now as the field has begun to spread out a little bit, I would not be surprised to see some drivers come in and try to maybe make it the rest of the way on one more pit stop now if they believe this race is going to stay green. And we'll see who is the one who attempts to be the one to open that up, because we've seen it in the past, especially last week. Pitting off sequence can almost work out for you. Jason Stewart was able to turn it into a top 5 and leading quite a few laps here in this one. But as we wait for that, Peter, let's go through the field, starting with the race leader, Greg Evans, who is just having another spectacular performance in the duct tape Chevy, because this has really been his series this year so far. 5 wins on the year, including last week at Charlotte. Most wins on the season for that 83, and looking very solid again, leading the most laps once again tonight. An outstanding season for the 83 of Greg Evans. Not in the points lead, though, as he missed a couple of races, but still with 5 wins on the season and looking very strong for a 6th one, it is looking very positive for the 83 of Greg Evans. A guy behind him in second who has had an incredible run tonight, qualified second, currently running second, led a few laps. That 46 of Chris Stouffer, there's no other way to put it. This is a breakout race for the 46. New look on his Chevy Camaro, and it has been an outstanding performance, getting up there, leading some laps, hanging tight with Greg Evans, still just 0.7 of a second back and running equal lap times with him. The new look is definitely paying dividends for him, Peter, because the 46 of Chris Stouffer having an outstanding performance tonight, a career run in second.
Yeah, Stouffer looking for his 3rd top 5 of the season. Didn't make the start last week at Charlotte in the American Regardless 300. Really having a bounce back night here in the 3rd position, though. Just talking about him just a minute ago is the number 24 machine of Alan Young. So far, so good for this number 24 machine, keeping things nice and clean on that race car. Oh, so important here with all the downforce that you need to get around this racetrack. It's a pretty aero-dependent racetrack, and that number 24 machine definitely keeping it clean. And looking at his results over the last couple of races, you know, really looking forward to a good run here tonight. Wasn't in last week's race as well at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So that number 24 looking for a good run. Here's the number 6 machine, Jared Haggerty. He has flirted with the outside wall probably more than anyone else here tonight, getting a couple of those Kansas scrapes, Kansas stripes, whatever you want to call them. But that number 6 machine still running in the 4th position, holding off the number 36 of Ty Hester right behind him. And that number 6, Cheerwine Splash and Go graphics machine, doing pretty good here tonight. Definitely showing a lot of pace. There is Ty Hester also showing a lot of pace in that machine right there. He has a little bit of damage on that number 36 machine as he gets showered with sparks once again off the side of the number 6 machine. But all in all, good run for Ty Hester here tonight. So far, the highest running Glassdoor Brewing machine out of the 7 cars that they had start tonight. Right behind him, the number 28 of Troy Haight. And this number 28 machine maybe starting to get a little bit of momentum. Just cracked the top 10 in points this past week, getting up into the 10th position, trying to get his second podium of the season, with his first one coming just a few weeks ago. You mentioned it earlier, Greg, at the Dover International Speedway, and getting a top 10 last week at Charlotte as well. So Troy Haight getting a little bit of momentum here in the middle portion of the season. Hopefully you can keep that going over the next few weeks. But Greg, in the number 7 car, in the 7th position, John Jenkins, 2nd place in points coming in tonight. Max Pappas Innovations on that race car. We mentioned it at the beginning of the show that he did not take a qualifying time, started well back in the field, but he's gotten himself up into the 7th position. And folks, see that number down there in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen? Positions gained, 29. The biggest move
we got
so
problems,
far.
Peter. Caution is out, and it's right behind the 7 of John Jenkins. The next 2 on the list was Michael Whiting and Grant Brown, and they both just went sliding through the infield. As we were talking about the 7, I looked down for a split second, looked back up, and saw these 2 cars spinning in the grass, and here we see it on the replay.
Man, I'm not 100% sure what happened. We'll have to see if we can see. It looked like the number 22 was already out of shape when we saw that. Here we go. Looking for the 52 down there on the inside, pushing up. There was their contact. Oh, I don't know if there was contact. but the 22 made contact with the outside wall. There was no contact, I should say, between the 52 of Grant Brown and the 22 of Whiting, but Whiting didn't have much room up there, got into the outside retaining wall, bounced off it, and unfortunately his night and Grant Brown's night both take a turn for the worst here, going through the tri-oval at Kansas Speedway. Long slide, and this is about when I expected to see the drivers on pit road under green flag conditions. Well, now they'll come down under the caution conditions to get what presumably will be their final set of tires here tonight.
So this throws what we were talking about right before we started going through the field out the window, because this was what these drivers were hoping for as far as that goes, a caution to set themselves up as pit road comes down. That throws the whole being the first one on pit road out the window. Wow, was that John Jenkins who just dove bombed into his pit stall? That could cost him a little bit there in the back there. Did you?
Yeah, there's been some interesting happenings on pit road here tonight, especially towards the back of things. So I'll tell you what, it's been an interesting night all around, Greg, and well, looks like we might have a few drivers gambling here on pit road. I think maybe. No, never mind. They got 4 fresh tires before other people got into their pit box. That's how far forward they were. But it looks like maybe the 24 of Alan Young came out second there, beating Chris Stouffer in the 46 to the line. We'll have to confirm whether or not that is the case. Brian Yazik in the number 55 machine, he's going to stay out there on the racetrack in the HPPsimulations.com machine. Is he going to try the Jason Stewart strategy here, do you think, Greg, and maybe stay out and see if some cautions go his way here in the final few laps?
He might be hoping on the cautions. The cautions breed caution strategy, Peter. That might be what we're seeing out of the 55. Remember, he was the one who got burned on that pit strategy earlier by coming in for fuel only. So we'll see if he's able to bounce back from it. That may be his play here, Peter, to try to stay out for that cautions breed cautions mindset. We'll see what happens here. Coming up with Greg Evans in second, Brian Yazik taking the gamble.
Absolutely. Let's see if we can possibly dial up one of the drivers running here tonight up near the front, the number 24 of Alan Young. Let's see if we can move him up into the booth. Alan Young, Peter Shorten, the 3Y TV booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, you've so far put together a spectacular run in the number 24 machine here tonight. The number 83, once again, very, very fast up at the front, but now you have a little bit better position in the Young Gun Creations number 24 machine. How are you going to get around that number 83 in front of you?
I honestly have no clue. It's going to have to happen on a restart and then hold them off on a log run, but Greg's in his own zip code. I mean, same with Chris. I mean, I'm just kind of hanging tough and hopefully come out of here with a top.
We've seen you be very, very patient out there on the racetrack here tonight, making those passes. How aero-sensitive is it? How difficult is it to make a pass on the inside line as well?
It's very tough. I mean, you have to have a really good run, and you have to time it right, and it's very hard to make the bottom work. You got to pretty much do a slide job.
Yeah, very, very tough to pass here at the Kansas Speedway, but pace car lights are off, so we'll let you get back to it. Best of luck here.
Thank you.
All right, well, folks, that was the number 24 machine of Alan Young. Solid run all night long in that race car, and he'll be restarting here in the 3rd position. The bad news for him is he's right behind the number 55 of Brian Yazik. Now, the good news is he can go when the 55 goes, but I'm sure Alan Young is thinking here that with the older tires, 45 laps, old tires on Brian Yazik's machine, that Yazik might have a little bit of wheel spin here, Greg, and we'll have to keep an eye on whether or not that comes to fruition or not. We saw it a couple weeks back here in the American Sim Racing Series, that wheel spin be a little bit of a curveball for some of the drivers, but hopefully Alan Young can get a good restart.
We'll see. Those old tires are definitely going to come into play on this restart. If Yazik can get out and get into that clean air, it might not be as bad, but if that wheel spin happens, it could be a long day for Brian Yazik. We're coming to the restart. Yazik on the pole. here for this one. Just over 30 laps to go. This is going to be fun. Here we go. Yazik already on the gas.
Yeah, Yaza got a great start. Alan Young behind him also getting a great start. So what I said about Alan Young might have been stuck behind the number 55 machine. He was able to almost pull level with the number 83. However, the 83 of Greg Evans shot out like a cannon through turn number 1 and 2. He's going to get back to the race lead. And here comes Chris Stouffer running that white line through turn number 1 and 2. Was fortuitous for him because now that number 46 has gotten back up into second spot. That's where he was before the caution flag comes out. But here comes Alan Young with a run coming out of turn number 4. And Young's just going to hold up here, get back in line behind the number 46 as they head off into turn number 1. But they're side by side behind him. Haggerty trying to go around the outside of the 55 of Yazik. We're 3 wide here, folks, on 3 wide. 2B Yazik in the middle. And look at Ty Hester slamming the door on Jared Haggerty coming out of turn number 2. We're still 3 wide going through these corners.
Yazik stuck in the sucker hole right now. Now he's got an opportunity to try to settle things down as the inside lane is clear for the time being. And as I say it, falls back even further. Look at Chris Stouffer making a run for the lead. Wow, he just barely gets up in front of Greg Evans. And much like the last restart, Stouffer with a lot of short run speed. Peter, this has been an outstanding performance out of Chris Stouffer tonight.
Absolutely. Now look at Alan Young all over the back bumper of Greg Evans. And I'll tell you what, the only thing standing between Greg Evans and the checkered flag is cars between him and the race lead. We've seen that number 83 machine have just immense long run pace, but if more cars can leapfrog him here on the short run, it's going to make it more and more difficult for that number 83 machine to get to the front. So I'm sure Alan Young here going to be chomping at the bit to try and get around the number 83 duct tape machine. And what about Ty Hester in the number 36? He's now up into 4th. Jared Haggerty still inside the top 5. Troy Haight in 6th, trying to close in on the back bumper of the number 6 machine. He got a huge run through turn number 3 and 4, did Troy Haight. And he's going to try and make a pass on Haggerty here on the low side. We've seen how difficult it's been all night long. Haight just down there running along that white line. He's going to wash up here coming out of turn number 2. Good news for Haight is he's got no one behind him. It's quite a ways back to the number 8 of Jimmy McKee, who's in the 7th position right now. And there's the number 77, Alex Giese, your pole sitter. Currently, it hasn't been the night that the number 77 was hoping for. He's back in the 16th position, right behind Kelsey Rogers, folks, who's still missing a hood, but is somehow, some way inside the top 15 in this race.
Outstanding performance there, but look at this battle for second on back. This is what we were talking about with Kansas, that draft really beginning to come into effect here. Alan Young has been putting all kinds of pressure on the 83 of Greg Evans, but Ty Hester taking peaks as well. We've missed Hester in the past. He's missed a few races this season, back in the driver's seat the last couple of weeks, and now we're starting to see runs that we can expect to see on a weekly basis out of the 36 of Hester, a top 5 run right now. And again, we've talked about Chris Stouffer and the performance he's having tonight. Another one, though, is that 6 of Jared Haggerty, qualified in the top 5, started in 4th, and has been up here in this position all day, despite catching the wall a couple of times. In the number 6 Cheerwine Toyota, we got a caution.
And this might be what Brian Yazik was hoping for. John Van Varellis there in the number 78 machine, slow on the backstretch. We'll have to see what happened here. Coming out of turn number 2, the 78 on the high side, and the 02 just had it coming together. Not quite sure if the 02 just got tight down there on the inside. We've mentioned that there's not a lot of grip down there, and unfortunately the 02 came up the racetrack and made contact with Van Varellis, and Van Varellis going for a partial spin and bringing out the caution flag here with 30 laps to go. There you go. You see that contact. Here we go. Don't think he hit. Well, made a little bit of contact there with the 02. And, yep, did make contact with the inside retaining wall. So definitely going to be damage on the number 78 machine. Pretty heavy hit with the left side. You see how that inside retaining wall just sticks out a little bit. Here we go on board with Sam Crow. And just, you can see he saw it right there at the end that there was not going to be enough racetrack for 2 of them, and he tried to crank some wheel in it to avoid that contact, but unfortunately unable to do so, and the caution flag does fly. But for the number 55 machine, Greg, he's going to come down and have the freshest tires in the field, assuming he's still got a set left. And we'll find out here shortly because he's coming down for those 4 fresh tires, presumably.
I think he does have a set left, Peter, because remember, the pit stop early in the race took fuel only. He's only been on pit road 1 time since then, so this will be his final tire change of the day as the right sides go up. So he is going to take those 4 fresh tires. Do you think it's enough time that has been green to have as much of an advantage as he was hoping for? Do you think he needed about 5 or 10 more laps, perhaps?
That's going to be an interesting question. Looking at Greg Evans's lap times over the last 5 laps, when we went back to green, he ran a 30.593. The last lap of green flag racing that we had, he was only about 0.2 of a second slower than that. So that kind of indicates to me that these tires haven't really changed all too much. And so, yeah, I don't know. You know, it's so difficult to pass around this racetrack. It might be a tall order for that number 55 machine, but at least he's on a slightly different strategy. It gives him an opportunity to do something a little bit different and see if he can come away with a good finish out of a race where he's had a little bit of damage for quite some time now. And nonetheless, good luck to the number 55 of Brian Yazik as these laps wind down to get a good finish out of it. But Greg, it's been an interesting race, and let's see if we can possibly dial up the number 46 of Christopher. We'll keep an eye on the pace truck lights, and let's see if we can bring him up here. Christopher, Peter Short here on the 3-Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, man, I'll tell you what, you've been fast out there all night long, definitely showing a lot of pace here on the restarts. We're going to have another restart here coming up shortly. What do you think your chances are of getting the checkered flag here tonight?
I think it all depends on these cautions. Every restart jumbles everything up. I was feeling really good there before that last caution came out, so we'll just have to see how it plays out. Hopefully I can keep the lead here on this restart, and if it goes green from here.
We've seen you have the opportunity to get out front and get some clean air on the nose of that race car a couple times. How important is the clean air tonight?
There's a difference for sure. It's a lot easier to maintain your line. There's a little bit of aero push behind the car. It's still manageable, but I rather have.
Well, Chris, the pace truck lights are off, so we'll let you get back to it, but best of luck here in the closing laps.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, Greg, it's been a great race here so far tonight, and Greg Evans led a lot of laps. We just heard from your race leader, Christopher, and he's feeling pretty good out there, so we'll see if that number 46 can come home and get the dub.
We'll see. It has been an outstanding effort from Christopher in the 46, but Peter, this is big because this is the first time all day that he has had the preferred lane on the restart. He has not been in control of the restart so far today. He has been able to get Evans the last 2 restarts and caught an early enough caution. He was able to be still out in front of Evans when it came out. So we'll see how he responds to having control of the restart here.
Yeah, that number 46 machine. I love that blue stripe that he's added to the backside of that number 46 machine. I think it adds a pretty cool element to that race car. Along with all of the tire marks alongside of it. He's going to add a couple more tire marks, a couple more pieces of rubber will build up on the front of that car because we're back to green flag action. And that number 46 shot out like a cannon. Did he get too far out front? We'll find out in a second. The 24 of Alan Young ducks in behind the number 83 machine. And Alan Young going to go up there to the top side once again. Remember, he used that top side a little while ago, lost the position, and he does so again. Ty Hester leapfrogs him. And Hester now up into the top 3 in the Glassdoor Brewing machine. Remember, there is a bounty for Glassdoor Brewing sponsored drivers. If they win, they get double the money from Glassdoor Brewing for winning the race. So I'm sure Ty Hester is thinking about that here as he's now gotten up into the 3rd position. This is the highest Ty Hester has been all night long with just 25 more laps remaining. 37.5 miles around this 1.5-mile racetrack right here.
Interesting you said bounty. That's the second bounty on the line tonight. We know the results of the other bounty in the real world. We won't discuss it for those watching on here who might want to watch it live. But interesting that there's another bounty on the line here tonight. So we are seeing something here. And Ty Hester up in the third position, doing a great job hanging in there right now, trying to track down Greg Evans. And Peter Christopher is doing a good job keeping the 83 at bay right now. He was up to about 0.7 of a second at the time of the caution. As here you see the second place car, Greg Evans in the 83. Stouffer and him have been running identical lap times since the restart, but Evans had a better run off of turn number 2 there and was able to gain some ground in 3 and 4. Hester, a little bit of a slide behind him. He's going to open the door for Alan Young to try to make a move on the outside. Hester slides up right in front of him. You just barely saw it. Keeping our eyes on the leader. Two-car breakaways right now up at the front, and it is getting dicey late in this one.
And I'll tell you what, it's kind of risk versus reward at this point in the stage, because remember how difficult it is to pass on the inside. If you go down there, you can end up losing many positions. But for drivers like Evans, who now has a little bit of a gap to the car behind it, he might start to get a little bit more aggressive, because he knows that if he uses that inside groove, he is going to lose a spot. He's just going to, at the very least, slide back in behind the number 46 of Stouffer in second. If this gap is maintained back to the third position of Hester. Same thing with Alan Young. He's got a gap building over the 6 of Haggerty. So that could be an interesting point for these drivers. I'm sure it's going through their heads, as we'll only have 21 laps to go this time by. We did get a quick glance of the number 55 machine of Brian Yazik. He's still in the 24th position, trying to use those slightly fresher tires to work his way up through the field. So far, hasn't been as successful as the number 1 machine of Jason Stewart was last week in the American Regardless 300. But we only have 20 laps to go this time by in the Glassdoor Brewing 200 here from Kansas Speedway. The Hacksaw PC's Premier Series trying to wrap up another race. Next week we have an off week before going to the Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown, race number 5 at Michigan International Speedway. And Greg Evans is sniffing, Greg. He is sniffing for the race lead.
He is hunting the back of that 46 of Chris Stouffer. He's like the great white shark in Jaws right now. He can smell the blood in the water, but the question is, can he capitalize on it? Still plenty of time on the score sheet right now with just under 20 laps to go. We'll see how this goes for the next few laps. So that 83 is coming, and he's going to take a stab at it right now.
Battle for the race lead, 83 of Greg Evans. He does it where you can make the pass on the straightaway through the tri-oval, and Greg Evans in the duct tape number 83 machine back up to the front. Has the clean air on the nose of that race car, and we'll see if he can set sail with the 46 of Stouffer in second. Ty Hester still in third. Now, the 24 machine of Alan Young, he's seen what Greg Evans did last time by, and he's going to do what Evans did on Chris Stouffer to try and get that third position. Young just sails it off into turn number 1, and he takes the spot. I think that was a little bit of the 24 of Alan Young going to school, learning from the 83, and used it to his advantage.
And I was watching behind as well. John Jenkins in the 7 tried it, almost cleared Haggerty, but Haggerty was able to get just enough of a run to get back on. And what that did, you're seeing it here. Oh, problems behind Richard Stallings in the wall, saves it. But a great job there by Stallings to keep it together in the 17. He caught the wall off turn number 4. That's going to drop him out of the picture here. We take a look at the 3-wide TV replay. Saw this behind what we were watching in the number 7. We'll talk more about that in a minute. As you see right here, Krobach to the inside, and the 17 just caught the wall there. But Peter, going back to what we were talking about with the 7 of John Jenkins, as you take one more look at it on the replay. Actually, no, this is live. I'm sorry. But going back to John Jenkins, he tried the exact same move that Young pulled on Hester at the same time, same spot, same bat time, same bat location. But it did not work because Haggerty was able to get the run on the outside. And what that did, because Jenkins was pinned on the inside, which we have already talked about, is not the preferred lane. That allowed both Woody Mahan and Jimmy McKee to get around him as well. So John Jenkins just about clearing Haggerty for the spot in the top 5 because he wasn't quite able to clear. It's back into 8th. As you see it getting dicey right now, Woody Mahan, Jared Haggerty saying hello to each other up there in turn number 1 and 2.
I'll tell you what, I would like to see if we can go back and get a replay of what just happened about a lap ago, because that number 6 machine threw a huge block on Woody Mahan going through the tri-oval right there. And I'm sure Mahan is not too happy with that. It actually opened the door for the number 7 of John Jenkins to get underneath Mahan. Jenkins unable to complete that pass, and now Jenkins under fire from Jimmy McKee. They sort things out going back off into turn number 1, but that was close for the 5th position. I'll tell you what, if you showed me a picture of Jared Haggerty in the number 6 machine and a brick wall right now, I would tell you they are the same picture, because Haggerty has been one of the most difficult drivers to pass all night long. And there again showing as these laps are winding down, just 13 to go now. Haggerty wants to hold on to the top 5. He's been up there for pretty much the entire race and just holding on for dear life right now. There's the number 55 of Brian Yazdik. He started to make a little bit of progress through the field. That number 55 machine has now gotten himself up into the 15th position, which is right where he qualified at the beginning of this race. Look at John Jenkins now all over the back of Woody Mahan, trying to get another spot. We've highlighted the number 7 machines claw throughout the field, now up into the 7th position. And now he's to the outside of Mahan. I don't think Mahan can defend this because Jenkins has a little bit of a hole, and Jenkins just going to scoot around the outside here. That's the best way to make a pass here at Kansas Speedway, is to get to the right rear quarter panel of a car through the tri-oval when they're not expecting it and just blow on by. So Jenkins will move up into 6th, and now he's doing battle with the number 6 machine. Didn't quite work out last time these two did battle for the number 7 machine, but Jenkins going to have another stab at it here as we have 11 laps to go, Greg.
And going back to that here as he gets ready to size him up again, how many laps did that take John Jenkins to get back to where he was before that happened? That was at least 5 or 6 laps that John Jenkins had to deal with the 84 and the 8 of McKee and Mahan. So just that one little mistake, not clearing him by about 3 or 4 feet, it took him 8 laps to get that ground back. So John Jenkins, that just shows you how difficult it is to pass here at Kansas, and we're seeing them try to set it up again as they accordion down through the tri-oval. Here they come. Troy Haight has caught on to the tail end of this as well. They are single file, but they are thinking about passing right now, and they are catching up to the 36 of Hester. As we take a look back behind them, Broussard, Haight, and Jersky up there as well, with Krobach up there as well in the 72. But this is the battle right now, as the lead is still about half a second apart. This is the battle right now, and Peter, this has been outstanding the last
I'll tell you what,
10 laps.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but this is not the battle right now. Battle right now is for second spot between Alan Young and Chris Stouffer. Alan Young ran down Chris Stouffer, was looking to his inside through turn number 1 and 2. Unable to make that pass, though. Once again, we see just how strong that outside line is. But Alan Young was not only closing in on Chris Stouffer, he was actually closing in on Greg Evans here with just under 10 laps to go. So we'll have to see what this number 24 machine can do, as they're still trying to get around the number 6 machine. Here comes John Jenkins down to the inside of the racetrack, trying to make a pass on the number 6 machine of Haggerty, trying to dive it off into turn number 1, unable to pull off the slide job. And I'll tell you what, now John Jenkins under fire again from the 84 of Mahan. He's going to slam the door of the 84 machine. And John Jenkins going to hold on to that spot. Your points leader, Mitch Brown, has taken it to the garage with a blown engine. And now we look back a little bit further. Here's Adam Jersky in the number 71 machine trying to make a pass. He's trying to get the 10th position from John Broussard. He did have that spot at the line by just a few thousandths of a second. But boy, oh boy, battle for second once again is heated up. Alan Young closed back in on Chris Stouffer. Here we are on board with the number 24 machine. John Jenkins still hounding the number 6 machine. Stouffer and Young closing in on the number 83. Boy, oh boy, this could be an exciting finish for what has been a pretty quiet race with not too much passing. That's what you kind of expect here at Kansas Speedway, however. But here at the end could be a grandstand finish. between a couple of these drivers.
6 laps to go in this one, Peter, coming to 5, and this has been some of the best and intense racing we've seen all day here, and what a perfect time for it to start developing here at the end. And look what else is in front of the 83 car. A little bit of lap traffic here, 1 lap car ahead of him. And if he has problems getting around the 19, which does not look like he will, that could change things up. But no, he gets around no problem, as Spiker does a good job staying out of it there. But here we go. Closing stages of this one. We're inside 5 to go now. Evans trying to pull back away from Stouffer and Young. Both these drivers having outstanding runs so far here. The 46 and the 24 have been great together today.
Absolutely. Definitely a very strong race for Chris Stouffer. We have a side-by-side battle once again for the 5th position. John Jenkins to the inside of Haggerty. I don't think he's going to make this work. He's tried everything he can, but throwing the kitchen sink at the number 6 machine. Maybe that was the kitchen sink, because now he's going to fall in behind Woody Mahan. Mahan's going to take that 6th position. Good news for Jenkins was he was able to cut up in front of Jimmy McKee and the McKee Lawn Care number 8 machine and hold on to the 7th position. Will it be 7 for 7 for John Jenkins at the checkered flag? Only time will tell. But Alan Young still right on the back bumper of Chris Stouffer, as we just have 2.5 laps to go. And here comes Alan Young to the inside of the 46, halfway down the backstretch. Young's going to sail it off into turn number 3, hoping to hear the clear, clear, clear sign from his spotter, but not able to hear it, as here comes the number 46 of Stouffer around the outside. Stouffer going to hold on to that 2nd position. Young going to slide up back behind him. 2 more laps around this 1.5-mile racetrack. Mahan now starting to work over on the back bumper of the number 6 of Haggerty. No one's going to challenge Greg Evans at this present moment in time. That duct tape number 83 machine still has a pretty significant lead over the number 46 of Stouffer. The battle is for 2nd and for 5th right now. Haggerty still holding on like a brick wall to that 5th position. There's a ton of time between Haggerty and the 4th place car of Ty Hester. Looks like Hester's got that locked up, as the white flag is now in the air.
Keeping our eye on the battle for 2nd. Remember that race between Carl Edwards and Jimmy Johnson, where Edwards did the quote video game move? I think we're about to see one of those out of Alan Young here, as he lines up Stouffer. If he's going to do it, it's got to be here. No, he stays behind.
But Alan Young, he's going to get a drive coming off the corner, cuts down underneath the 46. The 83 of Evans is going to take the checkered flag, win number 6 for him, and Stouffer's going to hold on for 2nd, side by side at the line. And what about the battle for 5th? Haggerty's going to take the spot. We're wrecking further back in the pack. Looks like Giese and the 55 of Yazik go around. No caution, checkered flag in the air. They're going to lose a couple spots between them, but Haggerty, like a brick wall, holding on to that 5th position for dear life. 6th position goes to Woody Mahan, John Jenkins in 7th. And what happened between these two, Greg?
Take a look. This is coming down the backstretch. You see the battle going on all around them. Into turn number 3, Yazik 55, Giese 77, Broussard in the wall, and Broussard caught the wall, bounced down into Giese, and Yazik was right in the crosshair.
Look at Yazik doing some rally crossing down there in that number 55 HPSimulations.com machine. But that man right there going back to victory lane once again in the American Sim Racing Hacksaw PC's Premier Series, win number 6. You see 5 stickers right behind Evans's name right there on the top of that car. Well, folks, he's going to get sticker number 6 here tonight. Going back to victory lane, burning it down here on the front stretch. Absolutely throwing a whooping on him here tonight. Lap number 1, 22 cars involved in an accident. Greg Evans leading a good majority of the night. And no duct tape on the Duck brand number 83 machine here tonight. All in all, great race for that machine right there, Greg.
Another great effort by
Blew the motor.
Greg Evans. He blew the motor doing the burnouts here on the front stretch. But Peter, that was another outstanding performance here tonight by Greg Evans. 6 wins on the year. When we come back, we will go through the field and talk to our top 3. You're watching the ASRS on 3Y TV.
Life happens everywhere. Like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and servpro.com.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Every day in business starts with a number. Output, productivity, efficiency, all measured in numbers, because data drives decisions. And if fire or water damage strikes, the numbers for your business can slow or even stop. Unless you know this one, 1-800-SERVPRO, the #1 choice in commercial cleanup and restoration.
All right, folks, welcome back to Kansas Speedway. Tonight's Glassdoor Brewing 200 has come to a close. Look at that logo. Isn't that a legit logo that Glassdoor Brewing has thrown together for this race? Great to have them on board for a couple of races this season in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series. But now we got some interviews to do, and let's see if we can dial up the number 24 of Alan Young, finishing in the 3rd spot here tonight. Alan Young, Peter Short here in the booth. Boy, you had a great night going. We talked to you there kind of towards the end. You said that, you felt really good about that number 24 machine. You felt pretty confident. And I'll tell you what, you came home with a 3rd place finish here tonight. But you put on a really good show there right at the end, trying to get around Stouffer. Tell us a little bit about your night.
I wasn't too sure coming into the night. It's not been a good place for me in the past. And when I qualified, I think it was 17th or something, I was like, well, I'll have an okay run. Then that first wreck happened and I missed it, and the car just kind of settled in, and I settled into a rhythm and just kind of picked them off. And I can't believe I came home 3rd after a couple of weeks I've had.
Last week, you weren't even at the American Regardless 300 last week. So bouncing back here with a great finish, a 3rd place run, how important is that to get a little bit of momentum here in the middle portion of the season?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, I didn't start the year off great, but the past few weeks between Richmond running up front, Martinsville running up front, and just some bad luck happening. And I was really looking forward to Charlotte after what I did in the All-Star race. But unfortunately, some stuff don't work out. But I am so happy to finish 3rd tonight, and I will take it any day.
Yeah, it was a very interesting night here tonight. I mean, you mentioned it. Lap 1, turn 3, chaos erupts. Sometimes when you get through those big accidents and you realize, okay, car's clean, I don't have any damage on it, let's see what we can do. I mean, how important was it to get past that wreck, kind of realize the situation you were in, and then kind of tackle that situation as it came?
It was big. I mean, once I got through it, I was like, okay, looked where I was. I think I was 9th or something at that point. And I knew at that point it was early, had to save some tires. I did some testing in the week and knew the tires were key, and just saving that right front. I learned a lot this past week, so I definitely transferred tonight, and my pit stops were great.
It looked like you might have learned a little bit from the number 83 of Greg Evans when he made that pass for the lead. It wasn't but a lap later where you decided to duck underneath the number 36 of Ty Hester. Was that what happened there? Did you just kind of see, I see what he did there, and make that move?
No, Ty actually said go ahead. He saw I was faster and he let me by. Class act by him. I've raced Ty a lot, but I wish I didn't let him by on the restart, because I might have had an even better shot at it, but it was definitely fun racing with all these guys up front.
I gotta say, that Young Gun Creations number 24 machine very, very fast tonight. Before we let you go, you got any shout-outs for us?
Yeah, I got to thank Young Guns Creation, my brother, Aiden. He's the one that makes my paints, along with Lee Staples, owner of LA Sim Sport, Jonathan Holstein. He was kind of chapping in my ear tonight, just telling me to keep digging. And Ed, he's like a go-to guy. He always says keep digging, and he just proves it every week. So, and you guys for broadcasting, and Jim and Sam for putting this on every week.
Absolutely. It's a lot of fun up here in the booth, especially when you guys put on a good show. A great run here tonight, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time back at Michigan.
Thank you. See you there.
All right, folks, that was the third place finisher here tonight, the number 24 of Alan Young. Let's see if we can drag in your second place finisher, the number 46 of Chris Stouffer. Chris, great run for that number 46 machine here tonight. Got a little bit extra blue on that race car as well this week. Great looking ride. We were mentioning a little bit ago just how cool that chrome is on the car. And a chrome car is a fast car here tonight because you finished P2. Tell us a little bit about your race.
Well, it wasn't fast enough. Greg definitely had what it took out there. He was the fastest car tonight. I started second and was able to stay up top 5 pretty much all night and kept out of trouble. There was a lot right behind me. I saw it in my rear view there, but I was able to hold on at the end, hold off Alan. He was charging hard, and just nothing I could do to catch Greg.
A lot of drivers, get frustrated here at Kansas Speedway, myself included, but I really enjoy running up near the wall. It's kind of unique. You only see it here and tracks like Bristol and Darlington, where you get to flirt with the outside wall each and every lap. Is this a racetrack that you enjoy coming to, or is it just one that frustrates you?
No, this is one of my favorite tracks. Those other tracks you named, those Darlington especially, that's one of my other favorites. Also like Indy, it's another single file track where you're really racing the track more than you're racing other drivers, and I like that type of racing. And not to say there isn't other tracks I like to race at, but this is one of my favorites.
Well, definitely having a great run here tonight. A couple of weeks' time, we go to Michigan International Speedway. Very wide racetrack, and especially with this package that we have, it's going to be a lot of drafting and probably a lot of places to make a pass. What are your thoughts about that track?
It's actually another one of my favorites, to be honest with you. I like Michigan a lot. I liked it in the old package. It was one of the tracks that I always had circled every year when the Cup cars went there, because I had a good chance of winning. And I felt the same with this package. It is going to be packed up. We'll probably see some 3 wide all the way around the track, and there'll have to be some give and take for sure. Hopefully everybody here is prepared to do that, so we can have a good race. It's susceptible to having the big one there, though, with the way that the track is and the setup now with the package that we have on these cars. So it'll be interesting. It'll be a lot of chess match, putting your car in the right place at the right time. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we are looking forward to it here on 3 Wide TV as well. Before we let you go, got any shout-outs for us?
Shout out to my teammate Tony. Thanks for hanging in there and tonight. And other than that, I'll say hi to the wife and kids. Thank you for letting me race. And Liam, it's time to go to.
Well, Chris, thanks for joining us here in the 3 Wide TV booth. Congratulations on your first podium finish of the season and your third top 5.
Thank you. Hopefully next week or next race I can be on top of this podium.
All right, well, folks, that was your second place finisher here tonight, the number 46 of Chris Stouffer. But picking up win number 6 on the Hacksaw PC's Premier Series Championship is the number 83 of Greg Evans. And no duct tape needed for that car here tonight, bringing it home in one piece. A big wreck happened on lap number 1, Greg, and I'm sure a lot of duct tape was used on the other cars, but you get to display their name in victory lane here tonight. Tell us about it.
Yeah, man, we had just a really good run, or a good car tonight. That first caution took out quite a quite a bit of good guys that run up front usually, and I didn't really see it happening, but I'm pretty sure it was really close to me because I seen the caution come out and look behind me, and I seen all the cars wrecking, and we just had some really good luck the last couple of weeks. Tonight, at the beginning of the run, we were just trying to save the tires for the first 10, 15 laps and then chase them back down. I felt like tire wear was going to be a huge deal in trying to pass somebody and trying to save that tire. So just overall a really good night. And just glad to pick up another win tonight.
I'll tell you who you have shaking in their boots right now, and that's Jim Foose atop the career win list and getting one closer. And I'm sure there will be a 6 sticker on the roof of that number 83 in 2 weeks' time at Michigan International Speedway. Michigan, big track, 2 miles. Another racetrack where you can pretty much put the foot flat, pedal to the metal here, especially with this package. What are your thoughts about going to Michigan?
Honestly, not really looking forward to it. There's just with this aero package, it's kind of going to be like a Daytona, Talladega type deal for probably the first 10, 15 laps until the tire wear comes into it. So, it's going to be you probably have to ride in second, third, fourth, just try to save tires for a while, and then just kind of see what you got at the end. But hopefully we can get out of there. I think it's a Serve Pro Wheelman Showdown. I know we need to try to get at least a top 5, top 10. And we'll be happy with that.
Well, you've won 3 of the first 4 Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown. I think you finished second in the other race at Talladega, if memory serves me correctly. So you have a great start to that. Round number 5, of course, at Michigan, like you mentioned. So very much looking forward to that. One thing that I kind of want to ask you, you go back to saving tires. You mentioned it here. You mentioned it quite a few times this year. And I noticed in the race, when you gave up the lead to the number 46 Stouffer, you gave yourself a little bit of a buffer room between yourself and the car in front of you. Are you trying to manage the aero push and how much you use those tires by giving yourself a little bit of a gap there?
You got secrets like that. You don't want to give too much information. I think you're kind of onto something. Yeah, I think you're kind of onto something there. But I'm not going to confirm it or deny it. But yeah, it's just at Charlotte, like I said, I seen the 95 the first run really save his tires, and I knew coming into this race that it was going to be really hard to pass because it's really a one groove track. So that's kind of why I just did what I did and kind of just rode around for the first 10, 15 laps, and then started closing in on, because I could tell after about 15, 20 laps, everybody started getting really tight, getting in the corner. And if you just kind of keep the right front on it, you could get a really good run off the corner, and then you could make a kind of like a slide job getting in the next corner. But some secrets you gotta just kind of not tell too much about.
The secret sauce. But getting back to victory lane, before I let you go, Greg, you got any questions for Greg?
Greg, it's been a dominating couple of weeks for you here, and you backed it up again here at Kansas. What does this mean going forward for you here with this week off here next week before we get back to action at Michigan? A nice break for you, but you seem to have all the momentum in the world right now in this series. So what does that mean for you going forward here for the next stage of the ASRS season?
Hopefully we can kind of just stay in the top 5 in points. I'd love to take the points lead, but that's really not important right now. Just staying in the top 10, top 5 is where we want to be going into the playoffs. But yeah, we've had some really good luck. I know a lot of good drivers have been taken out early or later in these races. So I mean, you got to chalk a lot of it up to luck as well, because I know there's a lot of guys out there that just had some bad luck tonight on that first caution and kind of opened the door for us again. But we'll just kind of try to stay in rhythm, keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully when we get to the playoffs we can carry us momentum into that as well.
Well, one thing that we have to do before we let you go, of course, is give you the opportunity to give us some shout-outs here on 3-Way TV.
Yeah, absolutely. I always thank Duct Tape and Sure Tape and T-Rex Tape, iRace and iFlag, Carolina Sim Works, my guys from Steel Horse Racing, my teammates Sam Crow and John Villarreal. I heard they kind of had a little scuffle up tonight, but we're all good going forward, and just gotta thank those guys, and I can't design as well. And I also thank you guys for broadcasting this. It's makes it a whole lot more fun. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, Greg, we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Michigan International Speedway. Looking forward to it here on 3Y TV. Best of luck.
Y'all enjoy the week off.
All right. Well, Greg, crazy race here tonight. And that man right there, Greg Evans, getting to victory lane for number 6 of the season. But, Greg, I think we have to go through the finishing results here. So why don't you take away the top 10?
Coming home with the win in the number 83 for the 6th time this season is Greg Evans in the 83. Duct tape all over the car, but not in the way he was hoping. Not in the way that's the victory lane. Second, Alan Young third. Ty Hester fourth. Jared Haggerty with a great run rounds out the top 5. Woody Mahan comes home in 6th, on that one with John Jenkins, James McKee, Troy Hayton, Adam Jersky rounding out the top 10.
In the 11th position, it would be none other but the number 52 of Grant Brown. John Broussard comes home 12th in the number 53 machine. Michael Krobach in the number 72 comes home 13th. Jason Stewart in the number 1 machine comes home in 14th, backing up a good run at Charlotte with a bounce-back race here tonight. It was an up-down night for that number 1 machine after getting quite a bit of damage, but it comes home 14th. Tim Knott, 15th in the number 41 machine. Didn't really mention him. He was one of those drivers who suffered with damage all night long. Mark Cohn comes home in 16th position in the number 39. Brian Yazik went spinning through the grass on the final laps, but comes across the line in 17th. Will Worsler, damage all night long in 18th. Kelsey Rogers finishing in 19th, and Tony Schoen rounds out your top 20, Greg.
Bray comes home in the 21st position, still on the lead lap. Bradley second. Michael Whiting caught up in that late accident, dropped him to a 23rd position, with Jordan Berry and Sam Crow rounding out the top 25. Alex Giese, the 77, caught up in that incident at the very end of the race. Richard Stallings, he caught the wall while running up near 12th. He fell back to 27th. Chris Bouchard, John Van Varellis in 29th, rounding out the top 30. Cody Spiker, the first car, 1 lap down. We saw him go a lap down late in the going, Peter.
Finishing in the 31st position, the number 86 of Todd Kirkwood. He stayed out under a caution flag to lead a lap and got a black flag, I do believe, had to come down pit road and ends up 4 laps down due to that. Mitch Brown blew a motor there right towards the end, came in tonight as the points leader. It was all undone on lap number 1 for that number 51, coming home 32nd. Jordan Harnish in the number 32, very, very fast in the early going, finishing 33rd. Doug Mullins in the number 18, 34th. Jay Crable, 35th. Tyler Seville, Jason Eisenhower, Brandon Stokes, James Lorello, and Jonathan Holstein down there. Not making it too far. I believe Holstein actually did make it past that accident. Not quite sure what his situation was, but he does finish in the 40th position. At least he scored in 40th. We'll have to see if there's a post-race change to that number 73 or not. Not 100% sure why he scored down in the 40th position, but Greg Evans led 83 of the 134 laps tonight. That is an impressive amount, well over half of tonight's distance. But we'll do the same thing in 2 weeks' time at the Michigan International Speedway for round 5 of the Serve Pro Wheelman Showdown. Another 200-mile race, 100 laps around that racetrack, Greg, and I am looking forward to that one because it's going to be quite a bit different than here tonight. Pretty much flat out, lots of passing, lots of 3-wide, 2-wide action. Make sure you tune into it right here on 3Y TV. Before we go, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Sim TV for the camera angles that we get each and every week because they're an awesome group of people and do a fantastic job for the broadcasting community. And nonetheless, I want to give each and every one of you a good night, stay safe, and all that good jazz. We'll see ya. See ya!